Y'all, this one's big. I get to sit down with one of the most dynamic voices in Christian music for a raw, real conversation. We're talking bold faith, creativity, and a surprise collaboration that blew the roof off the Dove Awards. Today, I'm speaking with Tauren Wells. You don't want to miss this. Kingdom Builder starts right now.
Hi, my name is Lachlan.
And my name's Brooklyn, and we're from Southland.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is John Wesley.
Hey, Josh Bissell here.
Hey, this is Jamie McDonald.
What's up? I'm Laverdier.
Hey, it's Leah.
And Brandon with Presence Music Band.
And you're watching
You're watching Kingdom Builder TV. If you're looking for stories of hope and encouragement, stay tuned.
Hey friends, Mike Laxton here with Kingdom Builder, and we've got something really special today. I've been a fan of this artist since his Royal Taylor days, and it's been a blessing watching how God continues to use him on so many platforms. From electrifying music to heartfelt ministry to an upcoming book that's going to blow some minds, figuratively and spiritually, we're thrilled to welcome Tauren Wells to the conversation. Tauren, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Mike? What's up, man? Thank you so much for having me.
Man, it's a pleasure to speak with you. As I mentioned, I've been following your music for at least a decade now, and it's just great to have a chance to talk about not only your music, but especially this new book you have coming out, Joy Bomb, here on May 20th. It definitely throws a lot on your plate because I know that you're a pastor, you obviously are a recording artist as well. Now you've got this book out. When you kind of zoom out and look at things from the wider view, what's kind of been that thread that God's been weaving in this season of your life with this book coming out?
Man, honestly, it's this super churchy word that we use in church circles a lot. This word fruition. It's when something that comes to be, that's been hidden for a long time, that's been in the waiting for a long time. And I honestly feel like I'm in a season of fruition. I'm in a season of things that have been planted, breaking through the surface and coming to be. And it's a beautiful process to be a part of. There are growth pains in it, but even, going into 14 years of marriage, 4 boys, planting a new church last year, releasing this book, a lot of new things that God is doing that are actually old things that have been in my heart for a long time. And so that's what it is. And every season of fruition comes with the necessity of management. And so I'm trying to learn and navigate the management and stewardship required for what God has put in my hands for this season of life. So it's fun. It's exciting. I'm loving it. I'm loving talking about this message that's recorded in this book. That's really the message of Jesus. And I'm hoping that it meets a lot of people where they're at.
Well, it definitely, again, just the title, Joy Bomb, it really gets people curious about it, which is great, to get it and crack it open. So, of course, the book comes out here May 20th. The title itself, as I mentioned, is kind of creating that buzz because it's, what is this all about? So without giving too much away, what kind of sparked the idea for this project?
Yeah, well, it's not a joke book, just in case somebody might think this is a bathroom reader with some great jokes in it. This is actually a book about the first message Jesus ever preached that someone wrote down, is what I like to say, because I know he was doing a lot of teaching and preaching, but this was an inaugural message for him. And what struck me about this was the fact that Jesus chose this particular message to be the first message that he ever preaches. And you have to think about who Jesus is, and particularly who Jesus was at this point in history. This is the God-man who has come for the redemption and salvation of humankind. He is the King of Kings in sandals, and he steps out on a hillside and he starts to speak these beautiful words. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. All of these things. But when I started looking at it, and people know this, we know that the word blessed means happy. But probably like me, I've just inserted happy there and still didn't really understand what was being said. Happy are the poor in spirit. Happy are those who mourn. Happy are the humble. Happy are the forgiving. But it dawned on me in a new way. It's like revelation that Jesus chooses with great intentionality the first message he would ever preach, and he preaches about happiness. I want to let that hit you for a second, Mike, because it's a profound, the implications of that cannot be overstated. That the first message God points us to is a message about joy. So it made me ask the question, how important must our happiness be if it's the first thing Jesus decides to talk about? Now he would get to a whole other things, holiness and reputation and all of these things. But there is something about the primacy of words, things that are spoken first. And we ought to pay attention to that. And the first thing Jesus says is happy. And so this is an exploration of what did Jesus mean by this? So much of what he says seems to be held in great tension. Happy are the poor in spirit. Happy are those who mourn. Happy are the meek. Happy are the hungry and the thirsty. How does this work? And so this book is an exploration of that. And in that exploration of Jesus's words, we find Jesus's joy. And that's the most beautiful part about it.
Definitely a lot to unpack, with all the Beatitudes there. And because I know it's like several different sections that you have the book broken up based off those. But I know we can't really contain it in that, a little statement, because of course that's why you read a whole book about it. But if you could define joy, not just as an idea, but as a kingdom force, because often it's mistaken for personality or positivity. In this book, you do go into deeper with it. How would you kind of define that, and with that idea of how God wants us to define it?
Yes. Well, first of all, I quote George Bernanos in my book, and it says that in order to find hope in what does not deceive, we must lose hope in everything that deceives. So we first have to recognize what joy is not before we discover what joy actually is. And I think a lot of us know it, maybe ideologically, but I don't think we've wrapped our hearts around it spiritually. So joy is not charisma. Joy is not personality. Joy is not circumstance. Joy is not something you can purchase, consume, partake in an external sense. Joy is actually a person. And that's ultimately where this book leads to, is that when Jesus spoke in Matthew 5 about these Beatitudes, he was not just describing the characteristics and qualities of a good person. He wasn't even pointing us exclusively to the traits of a Jesus-following individual. He was actually describing himself, that he was the one who became poor in spirit, who emptied himself of godliness to take on the lowest form of human, to become a servant, even becoming obedient to death, poor in spirit. He was the God-man who wept. He was the king crowned with meekness. He was the one who was pure in heart, who refused the things of the world, who hungered and thirsted after righteousness. Even when they tried to give him something to quench his thirst on the cross, he refused it, because the only thing that could quench his thirst was us having access to drink deeply of his kingdom. He was the one who was persecuted. And so I'm not just wanting to introduce ideas to people or ideals to people. I'm wanting to introduce people to Jesus. And if I can close the gap, even for some of us who have been following Jesus for a long time, people like me, if I could close the gap between what they think joy is and who they know joy to be, then I would be very pleased.
I'm definitely, again, looking forward to just reading further into what you have to say in the book, but it's about deepening that relationship between us and our creator, and really just growing that, and that abundance of joy that you have when you realize that, hey, we put our faith and trust in his son. We don't really have things to worry about. And that's where the joy comes from, is that, we know that, hey, that's at least my perception of it, is that, when you put your full faith and trust in him, he's going to take care of you, and you're going to be taken care of no matter what. And at the end of the day, when this life passes, we're going to be spending eternity with him. So
Yes.
I'm really excited about that. And just again, it's such a great way to really to take those Beatitudes and that message, and because it's also very familiar to a lot of people, even if they're not they may not walk the Christian life on a regular basis, but they're familiar with some of his sayings. Those are the Beatitudes. Is one of the most common things he said. So I think it's going to really encourage those who may be really either re-exploring their faith or really wanting to grow in their faith, get closer to him, because they're going to see that. So
one of my favorite endorsements that I got for the book was by a man named Brad O'Donnell, and he's the president of Capital Christian Music Group. Been following Jesus for a long, long time. This dude really loves the Lord, and I love what he said, because I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially said that I took something that we all assume we already understand, and allowed us to discover things about Jesus and joy that we never saw before. And it's not that the ideas are necessarily novel. It's that they are embedded in some things that we assume we understand that we really haven't scratched the surface of. I believe that Jesus taught the most important message on joy in human history. And if he taught the most important message on joy in human history, I'm going to use one of my dad's words here, it would behoove us to explore those ideas as thoroughly as possible. And so we're walking through, what so many ways that our joy is under attack. Jesus has given us ammunition to fight back, but it's not what you think you would do. It's blessed are the merciful, for you receive mercy. Happy are people who are relentlessly forgiving. You would think happy people would be the people that take up for themselves and seek reparations and vengeance is mine, saith me, and I'm going to make people pay. And we say we believe that we're forgiving people, but then when it comes time to cancel somebody from culture or even Christian culture, we have no problem writing someone off. And sometimes we don't want to let people off of the hook with forgiveness because we want to keep control over the pain that they cause in our lives. Well, that is sabotaging our happiness. If you're estranged from a parent and you're just holding it against them, you're not just holding it against them, you're holding yourself hostage. How can you experience the fullness of the joy of Jesus while you hold someone who hurts you hostage in unforgiveness? It kills you and it kills your joy. And so, I mean, that's just one very small sliver of what we go into in the book here. But yes, to your point, there is an eternal perspective that is essential to really understand the fullness of joy.
Mhm.
But Jesus doesn't just want us to have joy one day in the great by and by. He has given us practical access points to go inside of ourselves where the character of Christ is being formed so that joy would be generated in from our spirit and infiltrate our whole life.
Again, really,
You can tell I'm
it's
hyped,
yeah.
bro.
No, you're definitely on, and I love your
I'm on
passion for
one.
it, and it's great to see that because even with any type of writing, whether it's songwriting or even just from a literature standpoint, from a book standpoint, when you have that passion for what you're writing, and you're gonna be able to read those words off the page, or in your ears, you're gonna hear them and read them a different way, and I
Yes.
think that's gonna connect with the audience in such an impactful way that it's going to change their lives.
I hope
Music
so.
does the same thing, and kind of going with that. What kind of surprised you most about the process of writing a book compared to songwriting? Because they're two different processes. Were there any parts that kind of stretched you out spiritually or creatively and creatively in
Yeah.
unexpected ways?
Yeah, everything about it was unexpected. I had no clue what to expect. I had never written a book before. I did kind of like self-publish a devotional at one point years ago, but the writing has been in my heart for a long, long time. That's why I use that word fruition, because I remember riding under the cart through TJ Maxx with my mom with my spiral notepad and my pen, writing short stories, and I think that like the way that that creativity has been able to find a flow in my life has been through songwriting.
Hmm.
But I love writing. That's part of the reason why I love preaching. I love writing the message because I love communicating through the written page. And so this is really a seed that God planted in my heart very young that has been cultivated over years and years that we're finally getting to experience now. But everything was unexpected. The work, the time, the editing process. And, there are a lot of different ways that you can write a book. You can dictate it and someone will write it down for you. You can work with a co-author, which is amazing. I have a lot of friends who have done that. It's powerful. You can have what do they call them? Ghost writers and people that help you round out your ideas and stuff. All of those things. And I think that I will use some of those resources in the future. But to establish my own discipline, to establish my own heart, my own tone from the page, I wanted to write this book with God as much as possible. And so I had amazing editors that helped me say sentences correctly and those types of things. But this is really an outflow of my heart. And the headline for me on all of this, the top line is gratitude because I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to hopefully impact people through this medium. And I know it's hard for some people because you've probably realized this in your own life. Some people can only see you how they've seen you.
Hmm.
And it's difficult for them to realize that every individual is dynamic, not static. And so we are becoming. Every single day, we're just a degree different than who we were yesterday. And so this is a continuation of something God put in my heart. And I hope that if I've earned people's trust, for them to feel like I've had something to say in a song that has blessed them, I hope that they will give me the benefit of the doubt to believe that there's something in this book that will bless them as well.
I think it will. I mean, again, like I said, just reading what I've read so far, just in that introduction, it's I couldn't put it down. I had to stop myself because
Let's
it's like
go.
I want to get to that next page and really just you know read what God's put on your heart to put into those pages and really just say, hey, how can we connect with those words that Jesus said, and make
Thank you
that
so much, man.
a reality. So again, for those watching, those listening, May 20th, pick up that book. But let's take a step back to March when you actually dropped your EP, Let the Church Sing.
Yeah.
Want to talk a little bit about that? Just really get kind of your heart on the creation of that record. What was kind of behind that purpose?
We've gone through a major life change in the last 2 years. We were in Houston, Texas. That's where my wife grew up. We were there together for 13 years. Well, longer than that if you count when we weren't married. But we've spent a lot of time in Houston, and God called us to Austin, Texas to plant a brand new life-giving church called Church of Whitestone. And so we gather in Cedar Park, Texas on Sundays. You can learn more about that at yourwhitestone.org. But that is really the backdrop for Let the Church Sing. It's songs that I started writing 3 years ago when God was stirring my heart toward the fruition of the church. And so that's why you have themes like Making Room, The Room is Yours, Thank You for the Cross, Let the Church Sing. These are songs intended for people to encounter God both individually and collectively, to celebrate our collective identity as the body of Christ, as the church, who gets the exclusive right and privilege of declaring the praises of our God. So it's a fun album. It was an amazing EP to work on. I got to work with people I've had relationships with forever who have come onto our team, like Pastor Tauren Wells. He's an amazing producer, but he's our worship pastor. And he and his wife, Pastor Brooke is our children's pastor. They're amazing. Their family, their 2 kids, moved to Austin to dig this thing out with us. And that culminated in a writing session where myself, Davies, who also moved here with his wife, Sandra, who is our dream team director, and their 2 boys, Davies, Dimitri, and I were in the studio, and it wasn't much of a studio, man. It was like a little office spot, and God gave us The Room is Yours, and he gave it to us as the heart cry of our local church, that we wouldn't just have space, like a little margin for God to do something. We wanted to give him the whole thing. And so I hope people feel that heart, that raw faith that it took to step out and do this. And we're so grateful. Man, we just celebrated a few weeks ago baptizing 211 people.
Amen.
Since the church started, we've baptized 506 people. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of people give their lives to Jesus for the first time. So we're in the middle of a move of God, and we're so grateful.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because over the last few months, even just recently, or maybe the last year or so, I felt like there is, from all the conversations I've been having with other artists, that there's definitely some sort of a revival going on. A lot more people are getting curious about what faith is about, and those who might have gone a different way are coming back to faith, or just really exploring that opportunity a little bit better, or a little bit more. So just praise God for all those baptisms that people are declaring their walk with Jesus. That's amazing. And you did mention Davies, and that actually leads me into my next question. Kind of a fun one, just because I'm a kind of a big fan of a particular song of yours that had Davies on it that you released a while back, called "Take It All Back." But in October, in Nashville, you happened to have this little surprise performance with another band that I'm a big fan of, Skillet, when you did a spiritually charged anthem of that song and leveled it up like 10 times. And honestly, when I first heard it, I was like, wait, what? I was like, can you kind of tell us how that came together behind the scenes and that collaboration?
Oh gosh, I'm so glad you brought this up, because it's one of my very, very favorite things I've ever been able to be a part of, being a musician and an artist. So Davies and I put out the song Take It All Back. I don't even know what year it was, 2023 probably. And God was just breathing on it. From about 6 months in, we realized this song was connecting with people. And it was so cool. Like, we were having this moment. We were just launching the church and not even thinking about songs, in that way, especially stuff I'd already put out. We were in like survival mode. And I start getting reports back from people from the label, like, Take It All Back is going kind of crazy right now. And I'm so hype about it, and people are streaming it and stuff. So cool. So we put out another version and a different version, and they were more hip-hop leaning versions. And we were just all sitting down in a little restaurant in New Orleans, Louisiana, getting ready to do an event for a friend. And me and the band, the White Belts, we were just talking about, man, Take It All Back's crazy. This is the most unexpected musical moment, And I just made a joke of like, the only way that this song could be bigger is if like Skillet recorded it. And everybody kind of laughed, and Davies laughed, and he was like, that would actually be kind of fire. And so I hit John, and I was like, hey, bro, got this song. People are loving it. It's an anthem unapologetically about Jesus. Just wondered if you would think about jumping on it. And he listened to it. He was like, I've been waiting for songs like this. I've been waiting for Christian music that hits this hard, bro. And so I got the yes from him, and we went in the studio, and Ted T, who produced this thing, absolutely crushed it. At one point, we sent a version to A&R, and Josh Bailey, who was my A&R at the time, he was like, can we make this harder? We sent it back to Ted, and he doubled down. He made it go even harder. And we got the vocal back from John, and I was like, this is what this song was meant to be. This was meant to be a rock song. And then we got to perform it at the Dove Awards. And I think people were shocked. I look at the performance video, and there's a couple people who look like they're into it, but for the most part, everyone is just staring at us because it was so sick. That's how I'm framing it anyways. It was just unreal.
It definitely, for sure. Like after seeing that performance, I was like, I went up on Spotify and I was like, let me just see if it's there. And it's like, I found it. I'm like, okay. And I don't know if my son's a huge Skillet fan. He's 17, and so I was like, let me just and we've seen you guys, we've seen you perform at Winter Jam a couple years back. So it's like, well, we they really have gained to really appreciate your work as well. So it's like, well, let's see what this is about. And I wanted to play it for him, and he's like, this is on repeat like 5-10 times now, because anytime it comes out, it's like, no, turn it up, crank it to 30 because we want to hear it. So it's an amazing, obviously lyrically, it's so powerful. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So I really appreciate you for doing that. And thank you for sharing that story, because that is really, one of my favorite songs right now is Take It All Back, Skillet with you and Davey. So thank you so much for that. But again, wrapping up, appreciate you taking the time to share your heart and your story behind Joy Bomb, of course, the EP as well, and that collaboration. We really appreciate you for joining us here on Kingdom Builder, and we hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me on today.
Your joy is under attack. Doubt creeps in and fear whispers. The world is loud with empty dreams, gold-plated lies. Who's really telling the truth about joy? The most important message about happiness was shared by Jesus himself. But he didn't come to distribute it in small doses. He came to detonate it within us. Joy isn't just a feeling, it's a force that sends shockwaves through our sadness, pride, and anxiety. anxiety that sends tremors through our trials, doubts, and unforgiveness, giving way to ultimate hope and freedom. This book is for someone like me, someone like you, someone brave enough to believe that there's something more. Are you ready? Here comes Joy Bomb.